Okay, welcome back to Dwarf Fortress with Teemo. This is going to be one of my tutorials. I'm going to go over farming, cooking, food industry, and the drink industry as well. Some of you might recognize this as Cage Boot from my Cage Boot series. I'm going to let the time run. I'm not going to give you any intros on Cage Boot or go over the fortress. I'm just using it because it has all the screens I'm going to want to access. So first of all, we're going to go to farming. So Cage Boot has a few different places of farms lined up. So when you first dig into the ground, you can see that this fortress has breached the caverns because I got this dense floor fungus all over it. Underneath that is this yellow sand cavern floor. So sand is not usable for farming, but if you get some mud on it, it is usable for farming. If you find dirt somewhere, I don't think I have dirt on this map anywhere. You can look around through different levels and try to find. I never actually looked, I don't think, to see if I could find some dirt somewhere. Let me look all the way over here. I think you got dirt on these levels. It would be a brown color. I might have some dirt if I dug into the side of this. On this side over here, there might be some dirt into the side of the hills over here. So that's something I could look for. Dirt is great. You dig into the side of dirt and you can put down farms pretty easily. If you got sand, you're usually going to want to toss some water down. You can also toss water down just on the cavern floor like this. What I did with this game is I had one of these pools right here and I just broke into the side of it, water spilled all over, and then I closed it back up. That way the fortress was secure again. I also tried to put a little bit more mud on the ground and found out the amount of mud doesn't matter. Just any amount of mud will do. And for this one, I cut a hole. I started doing a pond zone, so a bunch of dwarves came and threw buckets of water down this hole, and it made a bunch of mud here. So that's the kind of two choices you have: is you either dump water in from a water source and then close it back up, or you just make a pit from above and drop water down. And that's how you get mud somewhere, and it can be on sand or it can be on a cavern floor. And once you get your mud everywhere, you just drop down some farms. And farms are built from the build menu. You go to workshops for some reason, and then go to farming, and there's this farm plot. And then you just drag and drop a farm plot of whatever size you want. So looking at the farm, it's got 4 different months. Now what you got to worry about with farming is that when a new season starts, your dwarves will go and start farming it, planting seeds specifically. And then they'll grow up during the season, and then they'll harvest it at the end of the season. But it takes a certain while for plants to grow. So the thing that you got to be careful with is with a new farm, when you build it, you might be partially into a season, and so they might use a bunch of seeds that don't actually come to fruition, and they're just going to like rip them out later. So I'd recommend when you first drop down a farm plot, whatever, so like right now, say I built a new one right now in winter, just leave it fallow for that first winter, and then when it becomes spring, when you see most games, the default is set up that it saves at the start of a new season. So when you see that save bar go across, you'll know you're in a new season. You can come back to your farm and then select something for winter. And also, the first time you do a farm, just go through all of these tabs and pick what you're gonna farm there every season. Some people like to farm the same thing every season. I like to usually switch it up a little bit. So I got plump helmets for 2 seasons and sweet pods for 2 seasons here on this particular farm. On this farm, I've got, I don't think I ever selected anything. So I built this just to see if I did it to see if the dirt got better, but I never actually selected anything. You know what? I'm going to go ahead and toss some, so I'm going to leave winter fallow, but then I'm going to toss some, I don't have any pigtails, huh? I'm going to toss some cave wheat on here for the other seasons there, and some more plump helmets. So I'll get some cave wheat. Can get brewed for a type of alcohol, which will be good. The other thing you have here is fertilization. So when you fertilize, you're going to be taken from your ash industry. Let me see if I can show that. So you've got this ashery here. So you've got different tasks. So you could do so from the wood burning industry, you got make ash or make charcoal at a wood burner. So the make ash is going to turn logs into ash. And then at your ashery, you could come in here and you can make potash from ash. So this potash is your fertilizer. So you have to kind of do two steps of the industry. You got to be making ash from logs, and then you're going to be making potash at a ashery. So you need both the wood burner and the ashery to get to that fertilizer. Now what the fertilizer does is it increases the amount of yield that you get. So each square yields far more if you're actually using fertilization. It just requires more work out of your workers to actually do it, and it requires the industry of actually using the fertilization. Overall, it's very good to use fertilization. You're going to get a lot more. This fort itself, I didn't really have to use fertilization too much. I had so many food sources, I didn't bother with that industry. But if you've got a fort, say you're going on like an ice cold biome and there's like nothing growing on the surface, or you're like on a mountain peak and there's nothing growing on the surface, and you can't even like raise animals that well because you don't get a pasture to put them on. You're gonna have to breach the cavern. So you got no animals, you got no plants up top. All you got is your farm in the side of the mountain. Then you're probably gonna want to try to fertilize if you even got lumber for it. But let's say you've got a source of lumber, but farm is your only real source of food. You might want to use fertilization just to improve the yield rates, and that just improves efficiency. So you don't have to have a lot of farm space. With one farm of this size right here with fertilization, I can feed 200 dwarves pretty easily. So this is obviously not that great soil, poor soil. So it's because I just got some mud over sand. Going all the way down, I breached the cavern on this game. So going all the way down to where I breached the cavern, I've got a nice cavern floor down here, and I come here and I've got none of that warning message that it's bad. And so I think I got plum helmets. Oh no, I got pigtails for one of them. I don't know where the seeds went. I gotta figure that out, or just trade for some seeds next time dwarven traders come in. Oh, I probably just have a whole bunch of pigtails ready to go, and I need to process them. All right. So that's how you farm. So we got build in, you select what you want, fertilize it is good, you just need the supplies for it. That's how you get the growth of farming. Oh, and just cave wheat, plump helmets, quarry bushes, seed pods, those are food. The dimple cups and the pigtails are not food. The pigtails is for like paper and cloth. And the dimple cups, I believe, is for some sort of, I think it's like for doing dyes or something. I never really use dimple cups. I gotta figure out what that is. I use pigtails for cloth and paper, and then I use the other ones for food. All right, going back up, I'll go up to my kitchen. Anything important? Found dead. Yeah, whatever. Sorry, I'm letting this run in my Cage Boot series. The frames per second had been getting low, so I'm kind of letting this run. This serving dual purpose. I'm teaching you how to farm and cook and brew, while also letting this run and letting all the jobs kind of catch up. All right, so I got a large stockpile, and I'm kind of simple with my food production. I usually build one large stockpile and then kind of put everything around it. So this stockpile has my inputs and my outputs for food. It's got prepared meals, it's got drinks, it's also got like raw fish and that kind of stuff. And the dwarves kind of go in and out of it, taking what they want to my kitchen and my stills and my fishery and that kind of stuff, and then bringing it back here. I've got set to build lots of containers so I can fill it up. If you want to get a little bit better viewing of what you have and where in a stockpile, you can make stockpiles of input stuff. So like you can have, the fish before they've been cleaned, and then then the fishery right next to that, and then an output from the fishery of cleaned fish, and then it's before it hits the kitchen. And then you can also have like all your inputs, like your plants and stuff that you've picked, but it's before they've been cooked, and that can go in a stockpile, maybe with the fish that have been cleaned but not cooked yet. And then finally have an output stockpile with all your prepared meals. And then you can do the same thing with your drinks. So some people like to get very complicated with their inputs and outputs. I'm kind of lazy with it and just build one big stockpile and let it all go. So it's entirely up to you. There's pros and cons to both. The pro here that is the biggest draw for me is that I'm lazy and this is easy. All right, so going into the two things for cooking and brewing, you need kitchens for cooking and you need these stills for brewing. For the actual jobs themselves, if I come in here, there's kind of three jobs you need, one for cooking and two for brewing. So for the cooking job, where is it? It's a prepare. There's my drinks. There's the brew drinks. Where's the prepare meal? Prepare lavish meal. Okay, so I'm preparing lavish meals because I got lots of food sources. The different types of meals are, I think it's like simple, fine, lavish, or something like that. I don't know if that, actually I can just look on the kitchen real quick. Oh, no. Kitchen. That's the still. Kitchen. That's the still. Where are you, kitchen? There you are. Easy, fine, and lavish. So I think it's 2 ingredients, 3 ingredients, 4 ingredients, something like that. The more ingredients and variety of ingredients you can have, you can prepare better meals. So as you get more food sources, what I usually start with is usually right on embark, I've got enough to start making fine meals. So I never make easy meals. I start with just making fine meals, and then once I get enough food sources rolling, I swap to making lavish meals, just so that my dwarves are really happy. Plus, it gives me more valuable stuff to export. And when I'm doing the meals, I come into my work orders. I've got another tutorial. If you're not sure how to use the work order menu or how to even get the menu started, I've got another tutorial about making a manager and using work orders. Go ahead and check the playlist for tutorials to find that one. So what I do specifically with prepare meals, and I think it was near the top, right? Brew drinks. Sometimes these get pushed around as they finish and have to get re-slotted again. There it is, prepare lavish meal. So I got it as make 10 of them, and right now the way I have it set for my fortress is they're going to keep making these prepared meals as long as I have less than 500 of them. So I'm making quite a few meals. When I start off, I usually set this number at around 30 or 40, maybe 50, because I don't need that many prepared meals at the start. As my dwarves grow, and especially because I want to start exporting these, I really set up the amount that I have here. Now, I don't set any inputs as far as looking for unrotten items to cook, and the reason I don't do that is because I don't want them to stop and have to get restarted again. Now, what that does cause is it'll cause a lot of spam in here about not having enough materials for a meal if you don't have your inputs coming. As long as you got plenty of inputs, and as long as you're storing your inputs in containers and they aren't going bad, you're never going to have an issue. So that's why I do it that way. Now with the drinks, there's 2 tasks. So you're going to want to brew drinks from fruit and brew drink from plant. And again, you want to set them both up. I have them both set to less than 250. So really what happens is when I get less than 250 drinks, both of these queue up and I brew 10 of each. Now, if I don't have some, they'll do the other one. And I always set both the fruit and the plants. That way, if I have either one of those inputs for brewing, then it will trigger and go. And again, if I don't have it, it'll show up as cancellation spam. And I don't see too many of those. So I must have both plants and fruit right now because I don't see many cancellation spam of that. So that's good that I've got both of those going. Now the other thing I want to talk about, so that's how you get them. You need your stills in the kitchens, you prepare meals, start with fine, move to lavish as soon as you got the inputs, brew both drinks from plants and drinks from fruit. Oh, also another food source, just to give you an easy one. It's not really part of it, but I would recommend just when you embark, just look around on what type of plants you have up top, and seeing if you have, like, I got some apple trees here, and I think I had some other plants too. some turnips, soybeans, spinach. So just if you see some plants that provide food, just drop a gather zone around it so that you get more food sources there. It's not really farming, but it's kind of like farming, so I'll include that real quick just to talk about that. All right, so the last screen I want to show you, if you come into your labors, come on, open the labor and go to kitchen, you've got a list of all the different types of fruits, vegetables, fruits, and leaves in this. Then you got seeds here, drinks, meat, fish, and others. The reason why you want to come here is to tell the game whether or not you actually want to cook it or brew it. So this first little symbol, that's the cook symbol. This is the brew symbol. What's really important is seeds. So you don't want to be cooking away your plump helmet spawns, for instance, your seeds, because that'll get rid of the seeds. Now you could cook the seeds if you get a whole bunch of them, but generally speaking, you don't want to cook away your seeds. Now I do want to cook away acorns and candle nuts because those are just nuts that are meant for it. I could do rock nuts too. I don't know why those are. I'll go ahead and cook those away. But all the ones that are actually seeds and spawns, you don't want to cook those away because that'll just get rid of it and then they'll be gone. You won't get to plant more. Unless you've just got an overwhelming amount of them, then this is an efficient way to get rid of some. With drinks, you also want to take a look at this, and you can see that I've turned off cooking on quite a lot of this. The reason is that your dwarves will actually use drinks to cook meals. It's like they're pouring the drink in with the everything else they're cooking, and you probably want to turn those off for some of the stuff that you're producing at the start. Like I've allowed them to cook a lot of stuff, but I almost always come in here and turn off everything that says dwarven on it, because the dwarven stuff is essentially what they're making from your plump helmets and your cave wheat and that kind of stuff. When they cook that, it turns into dwarven something, and then the default is that they actually cook it into food. So if you're having a problem in your fort where you've got lots of food but your drinks are nothing, you can't get drinks, it's probably because if you come into this screen, everything is green and your dwarves are just taking all your drinks and cooking it, and they're cooking away your drinks from you. So just turn off a bunch of them, let yourself get a stockpile of drinks, and in fact I can just turn all these off because my drinks are kind of behind where my food is. And then also here you may want to consider turning off cooking for certain stuff. Like plump helmet starts off with green for both cooking and brewing, but if you cook a plump helmet, it actually won't give you a seed back. You'll get a seed back if you eat a plump helmet or if you brew a plump helmet. It'll be gone if you cook it. Plus, I just want my plump helmets to go towards my drinks. I don't want them to go towards food because I have so many other sources of food, and that can be the case for other drinks. So like I have ratweed here. I can decide if I don't want to cook it. There's a lot of things that you can see only go towards brew or only go towards cook. So it's only the ones that have both where you might want to make the decision and say, okay, I don't want it to be cooked. I only want it to be brewed. So that's the last screen I wanted to show. Really, this part was important, the whole turning off drinks from cooking. That way you actually keep your drinks, and making sure that you don't cook up your plump helmets. Those two things can really hurt beginners a lot. So I think that's everything with cooking, brewing, and farming I wanted to show. Hopefully you found this informative. Leave a comment if you have any questions. Thanks, everybody.